Locho sampo pa gyo trashi pa tuche tempe trile yar ngoda pelge drolor zampe ze parachen palde lame shabla solvade Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timo Nisha Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Karm Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Karm Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Uta Vardanya Shri Bhad Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Anyamda Dala Tuje Sikso So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Oyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tsechi Ningne Solwa Debe Tse Dejen Korlo Visu Lekshune Yila Sambe Dede Malepa Geme Lunge Drubra Chinge Lo Tsoni Sodan Digdun Shape Tse Dunge Namke Yin So Lekshune Lapchen Tsoni Yonso Tsopata Cherani Dun Changra Chinge Lo Chancho Parge Ninsen Tukun Tu Niu Peme Siudru Lekshune Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen Dela Drubra Chinge Loba Dage Lona Chola Chokpata Chemi Samjur Ngimbashi Chedan Timbe Dudum Malupa Beme Lungi Drubra Chinge Loba Dorna Tingne Tserava Tamchedan Techi Pardo Nekab Tamchetu Rese Kyamne Lama Kelem Tukje Chingi Dala Sikso Sola Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dachala Jetsun Lame Tuje Rab Gongne Kudan Sungi Nawa Dralme Tu Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Tobrasho Kewa Kundu Yanda Lama Da Drame Cheki Pela Longche Chin Sadan Lamgi Yenten Rabzo Dorje Change Kopa Nyur Tobe Sho Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Alu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Ma Pakyuke Tudan Dagi Tenyerme Chikto Chingi Alu Makyuke Kudan Dagi Alu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Ma Makyuke Tudan Dagi Tenyerme Chikto Chingi Alu Om Muni Maha munye svo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupara Shua Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupara Shua Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonam Jancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Druparasho.
In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Very often, we have a kind of distance, or we keep ourselves distant from what we'd like and what we actually experience. Sometimes we create a kind of an idealized idea, like, oh, how wonderful it would be if I did this, or if I was like this, and then which is quite far from our reality. Oh, how wonderful it would be if I could meditate every day, or it would be wonderful if I were able to do this or that, or be that, this. And on one side, it's good. To be able to desire something, to dream about something that is beyond what we actually are. But on the other side, we should observe that it at the end of the day, we do what we want. We we put energy in what we think is important for us. In other words, we we make our own priorities. And it's for this reason that, generally speaking, it's said there are three things that push us to do what we do. Three main forces that push us to take decisions and to do the things that we do in our lives. We do things or because by doing that we avoid something that would hurt us. We avoid, let's say, a kind of punishment. That's not the right word, but let's say a negative result. Or because by doing that we obtain something positive, something that we like. Or because there's a kind of moral reasoning behind it. So the incentives to do things, either because also when we, in any context, from religion to government laws, to make someone to do something, the positive incentive or there's the positive incentive, the negative incentive, or moral incentive. If you do this, you'll get this prize. If you do that instead, you'll be punished in this way. And no, you should, or for a moral reason, you should do this, that, and the other. So if we look in our own lives, these are the three forces that push us when we are in front of a choice. Very often, there's the thought, okay, I'm going to do this. What am I going to get in return? Oh, but if I do that, there's that negative result, and so I don't want to do that anymore. Or if I do that, then I'll have this positive result. So I should do it. I must do it. Or the moral aspect. Okay. I was told that this is the right thing to do. This is what I should do. And in front of this same attitude, there's a verse from Shantideva, this very important master from the 11th century. Sorry, not the 11th. It was before, even then, about 1,500 years ago. And he said, in the Bodhisattva Charavatara, he says, the guide, without suffering, there cannot be there is no renunciation. There can't be this determination to get renunciation's not the correct translation. It's this certainty of emerging. So have you ever seen someone who's not well? A classic example, someone who has some kind of addiction to alcohol or drugs or the cell phone, whatever it is. And we see that the person has this addiction and isn't well. You try to say something, but it's difficult for that person to get over that addiction. If he doesn't actually acknowledge being addicted. The first step to get out of a difficult situation is to recognize that that situation isn't beneficial, that person isn't well. Then if someone says, okay, no, this is not right, and then at that point I can direct myself towards something different. But as long as I think where I am is fine and there's no problem, then it's going to be difficult for me to put any effort into getting out of that situation. So, the correct diagnosis, seeing the problem, highlighting the conflict or the sickness, the cause of the problem is wonderful. It's very important. But what is as important is that once we've highlighted the sickness, then we need to put energy into the healing. Once you see that there's a conflict between two people, at that point we need to put energy into resolving. We need to put energy into harmony, into union, in love, respect, and gratitude, and no longer energy into the conflict itself. Once you've highlighted the sickness, then we need to put energy into health, into healing, the opposite. There's that first step of recognizing what is not well, to see the shadow, so that you can direct the light well. And in this, in our lives, it's very important to ask what our shadows are. What is the sickness that we want to be free from? What are the aspects of my life that I don't want to continue? What do I want to better? Not with an attitude of, or like feeling, self-blame, or, with this attitude of welcoming ourselves and directing ourselves to what we want. Because when I know that I'm sick, I can then direct myself towards a healing. So this is a very important step. When we talk about refuge, the first thing that's important for us to remember is that every day, we're always taking refuge, continuously. Taking refuge means there's something I don't want, and I think that other thing can help me. So I ask for help, to get out of what I don't want. I'm hungry, for example. I don't want to be hungry anymore, so I take refuge in food. Or I'm thirsty, I take refuge in water. I'm tired, I take refuge in sleep. When someone's very tired and says, I have to sleep, one is taking refuge in sleep. Or I need to lie down, I take refuge in my own bed. It seems really simple, but it's something that we're constantly doing, this act of taking refuge. So taking refuge is not something specific to Buddhism. What's important is recognizing what we're taking refuge from and what we're taking refuge in. If I take refuge from the cold, I'm taking refuge in a nice warm sweater, a protected house, the sun, a sweater or heat. I take refuge in something that can protect me from something that I don't want to feel anymore. And we're constantly taking refuge. The problem is when we take refuge in things that can't actually concede us refuge. Like, for example, if I say I'm really thirsty, I take refuge. I take refuge in a drink that will not eliminate my thirst, like salty water. Once someone told me that in Coca-Cola there's the same amount of sugar as there is salt. Because the more you drink, the more you want to drink. It doesn't quench your thirst because there's so much salt in it. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the products. But just imagine drinking water with salt to try to quench your thirst. What would happen? We're even more thirsty. It doesn't resolve that. So if we take refuge into something that doesn't have the characteristics to be able to help us get out of that other thing, then we need to look for something else. So in taking refuge, there are two fundamental attitudes. We should have clarity about what we want to avoid, what we're taking refuge from. And to avoid that thing, what am I taking refuge in? These two aspects, and there's a traditional term. I don't really like it. I don't like how it's translated. In our context, it's not great, but it does give the idea. It said that the two causes of refuge are fear and faith. And let's just explain better what that means. Fear means, I'm afraid of being hungry. I start feeling hungry and I don't want to feel hunger. I want to avoid being hungry. I don't like being hungry. I don't want to feel hungry. So I have this so-called fear of being hungry. It's not that emotion of being afraid of fear, but it's recognizing that that's something I need to avoid as much as I can. So being afraid, having fear, is about recognizing what I don't want. I don't want my thirst to get worse, for example. Faith, the definition of faith is believing in the existence, the abilities, and the characteristics, the qualities of something. So I'm thirsty. I don't want to feel thirsty anymore. I'm afraid of being thirsty. I have faith in water. I know that water exists. I believe in water. I believe that water has the characteristics of being clean and clear, and has its potential qualities of being able to quench my thirst and to clean, etc. So I go towards the water. If I'm in the middle of the desert, and I walk towards the water. This reminds me of the time where I was in India. Once a year, the departments within the monastery where I lived, once a year we would have a picnic. We would go, there was a holy mountain in front of the monastery, and I could see it from my bedroom window. It was a kind of, so we would go, we'd have a picnic on this mountaintop, and there were many, many, many steps to get up. And at a certain point, we would have a ceremony, and then halfway up, we would have a picnic. The Tibetans are so good at doing this. They would bring everything to eat and also for playing, etc. And one day I was there, and at a certain point, it was very, very hot, and I was very thirsty. I had no more water, and the only way to get water was going back and walking about 300 huge steps, and then coming, and then I'd have to come back up. And I had this kind of this struggle. I had this inner struggle that what's stronger here? This desire to drink? So am I more afraid of my thirst, or am I more afraid of the fatigue that I will feel to have to go down and come back up again? And I did something, and I hope I don't think it's the right thing to do. I hope that no one has to do this. I tried to find a middle way, because the laziness, this idea of having under that, the heat, having to go all the way back down and back up again. Instead, I found a kind of puddle, and I put a cloth on top of it, and I drank from the water. That's why my antibodies are huge like this after having lived in India for so many years. Anyway, I did that because I believed that even if it was disgusting, I believed that somehow it would take away my thirst, and I didn't want to walk down the mountain and back up again. So what I mean here is that the energy that we put into something depends on how much we believe in it and how much we want to get out of that other situation or that other state. Both things are important, generally speaking, in our lives. What do we take refuge in? We take refuge in what's called the suffering of suffering. Mostly, we take refuge in the suffering of suffering. We try to avoid hunger, thirst, physical pain, sadness, resentment, fear, just mental and physical suffering. This is what we try to avoid, isn't it? excuse me if I'm so direct, but for most of us, if we were, if someone asked us, do you want the long, tiresome, graduated path towards enlightenment, or would you like a comfortable samsara? I think most of us would say, okay, we'll think of enlightenment later, but in the meantime, given that it's a long, graduated path, I mean, we can start it even later. Let me be comfortable now where I am. Also because our starting point is this desire of getting out of the suffering, the desire of wanting to go beyond physical and mental suffering. I mean, that's what it's mostly about. What happens for taking refuge within Buddhism, this is fine, but in reality, we need to go to a deeper level. Because if I'm thirsty, I'm gonna take refuge in water, not in Buddha. If my point is to not having material suffering, I need to go and work well or play the lottery a lot. I'll need to find, a way to make money if that's my main goal. I'm not going to pray to Buddha every day for money. That's not the function. That's not his function. So what happens is, when instead we're able to recognize that it doesn't matter where I am, with whom I am, or what situation I find myself in it, as long as I'm taken by my ignorance, by my selfishness, by my anger and jealousy and envy and arrogance and fear, this strength of my own karma and all my actions of the past, all of this together. At that point, I say, no, I can't do it anymore. I don't want this anymore. Sincerely, I just can't do it anymore. To stay in this continuous game of reacting with anger that I know, from thousands and thousands of times, and then I'm not satisfied and I act like this, and when one problem ends, another one begins. Enough, really. I want to be well. I really want to find an inner state of balance and satisfaction. I want to be able to offer something positive to others. And so the question is, what can I do? So taking refuge from all permeating suffering that I explained this morning. I take refuge from samsara, from my mind and body that is polluted by mental defilements and karma. I just can't do it anymore. Enough. And at this point, what can I do? Where does samsara begin? It's like being at the doctor's, and I say, I just can't stand this sickness anymore. And he says, okay, there are treatments that you can do, that momentarily they will take away your symptoms. But to really cure this sickness, you have to change your lifestyle. You need to do this, that, and the other. Similarly, if we went to Buddha and said, I don't feel well. I always feel dissatisfied when one problem ends and gets resolved, another one begins. I see this inner cycle of dissatisfaction, projecting my happiness onto that which can't sustain it, etc. Enough. I just want to be well. And the Buddha says, okay, you can do momentary things to take away the symptoms, but instead, if you need to change your habits deeply to make a real change, cultivate inside that which allows you to be well. Avoid the causes of suffering and cultivate instead your qualities like balance and satisfaction, patience and love, etc. And at this point we say, okay, yes, thank you. This is what I want. Help me. And we go to a doctor asking for help. The doctor cannot cure us. No doctor has the ability to cure a patient. The only thing a doctor can do is to make a correct diagnosis, give the right treatment, and then the patient needs to follow that treatment and heal himself. The patient taking the medicine, following the treatment, that heals the sickness. Instead, the doctor, he gives the right direction, but medicine needs to be taken for it. Medicine needs to be taken correctly for it to heal the sickness. I can buy all the medicine I want in the pharmacy, or if I take it in the wrong way, maybe it's going to even hurt me, and it's not going to do anything if I don't take it. So the real refuge is taking medicine, That's why the real refuge is Dharma. So taking refuge, it's not about, oh Buddha, I'm taking refuge in you, do with me what you want. No, taking refuge in Buddha is, I don't want to stay in samsara anymore. Show me the path and I will follow. It's as if going to the doctor and saying, doctor, please help me heal, give me the right treatment, and I will follow it perfectly. Every once in a while I see, friends, doctor friends, and I'm sorry for them. I see them quite frustrated sometimes. Because it's normal that we go to a doctor, we say, oh, I have this, I have that, and the doctor says, okay, do this. We go back a month later. How are you? Oh, I don't feel so well because the treatment didn't really work. I still have this problem. But are you following the treatment? Yes. Well, let's see. Did you change those things that I told you to change? A little bit. Did you take the medicine? This one I took, but the other one I substituted with something else because I heard that it wasn't so good to take. Well, no, I gave you a treatment, a full treatment. If you follow it, good. But if you're not going to follow it, I can't do much else. Me too. I'm much better now, but I'm a terrible patient. About 10 years ago, I really was just a horrible patient. So many times I would go to Tibetan medicine because I wasn't feeling well, and I would give me medicine, I would buy medicine, and I just wouldn't take them. Maybe at the beginning, I would feel better. That placebo effect was really working, Anyway, I've changed, luckily. It's of course, being 40 is a lot different than being 20, So a little bit of fear there. We can't expect to be cured if we don't take the medicine, if we don't follow the treatment. So taking refuge in Buddha and in the Guru. The Guru is he or she who represents the Buddha, who gives us the Dharma. The real refuge is in the Dharma. One takes refuge in Dharma, not just after one is listening to teachings or reading a book or doing a sadhana. One really takes refuge when one puts into practice what one has been conceded, with in the conduct, with our mind. That's when you are actually taking medicine, taking refuge. This is called the effective, this is called the real refuge. And we also need help. We need support because we have weaknesses. We're not so strong. We need help along our path. It's like, what would a hospital be like, without doctors? Would be absolutely chaos. Everyone would just do, what they think. It just wouldn't work. What would a hospital be like with doctors but with no medicine? It would be incredibly difficult. Unfortunately, there are places where there are hospitals that for various reasons they don't have all the necessary medicines, and the doctor, which the patients come and the doctors don't know what to do. Or imagine also a hospital with doctors, with medicine, but without nurses. That would be absolute chaos too. All three are fundamental. The doctor is like, sorry, similar to the medicine is, similar to the doctor is the Buddha. So he teaches us, he shows us the path, and the Dharma is like the medicine. It's the treatment to the path of treatment to follow, and the Sangha, like the nurses, is the support. Support for our path, and all three are absolutely fundamental. Along our path, we need he who or she who guides us. We need the actual path, and we need others who can support us. Even just walk the path together with us. I mean, just walking together is a support. So the spiritual community is fundamental. I've seen also in these recent times, these times of isolation, and I mean, we recognize the importance of community much more than in the past. And as beings, as human beings, we need a community. It's something very important for us. So we take refuge also in the Sangha. What's a sign of taking refuge? It's having clarity with oneself about what we want. This is one of the first points. What do I want in my life? Do I want to live a comfortable life, and I want the world to be the way I think it should be? Or do I want to change my way of living? Do I want to change my way of living the world? What's my priority? Being at peace with myself and others, or living a reality that matches my expectations? Because if what I want is to live a reality, that corresponds to my expectations, then either I lower my expectations, or I just spend day and night, trying to make the reality conform to what I think it should be. But here's a fundamental point. When we talk about taking refuge, it's not just a ceremony. It's a deep choice that we're making to direct our lives, where we choose. First of all, we stop victimizing ourselves. First of all, we take the commitment to use every situation as an opportunity to grow as a person, because my priority is to go beyond my mental defilements, to grow and to walk along this path, reach gradually the state of peace and help others do the same. So this has to do with every aspect of our lives. So it's not possible to take refuge, follow the path that Buddha showed us in one side of our lives, and in other parts of our lives not. I mean, those who do try, they take a part of our lives and where they dedicate it to spiritual practice, and then there's a kind of and then in other parts of life, other aspects of the life, it doesn't correspond, like it's like trying to follow a diet to detox, half the time, and then half the time eating all sorts of junk food. And I've seen people practice, really practice the spiritual path deeply and with intensity, and then and then just let themselves go completely, and you know, they just in a self-destructive way follow all of their addictions, and then to compensate they practice and meditate, and then they go back again, like, or for example, to act very violently in one context and then be extremely good in another, somehow to try to compensate. And I don't know if it's the right comparison, but I heard once that like sometimes, you know, the, like those, for example, who are very, very religious, for example, they can also be very violent, like at the mafia, for example. In the region of Kham, for example, in Tibet, it's very common, you know, so for example, in central Tibet, you know, if they don't get along, you know, maybe to their face, they smile, but they turn their backs, and they, you know, they say everything bad about the other. Instead, in Kham, you know, um, they just open up their hands to fight. You know, once I was with Lama Ganshin, and we couldn't go because there was a kind of local war over mushrooms, because one of the main resources, um, um, they have actually these porcini mushrooms grow there, that they're exported to Japan, and each village started to say, okay, you know, they said the jurisdiction for, you know, for where you can forage the mushrooms is here and not here, and so it was like life or death there. So Rinpoche at the time said it's not the time to go with a large group and visit this area, you know. But you know, but these people are incredibly dedicated and fervent practitioners. I mean, we have these contradictions, but this isn't what we should develop. We should have balance. So when we take refuge, it should have to do with every aspect of our lives. It's not about going to Buddha Dharma and Sangha as if they were gods and say, take care of me, do with me what you will. No, it's not that either. I'm taking a decision. I'm making a decision to avoid what is bad to me and to cultivate what's good for me, to follow the example and the advice that Buddha has left for us, have come to me today, you know, as much as I can. So, and there's no hurry to get there, but we need to be in a hurry to walk correctly on the path as best as I can. So I have a direction to follow. And there's not this time that I practice and other times where I don't follow, and sometimes I follow the way that, and sometimes I don't follow. It's not that I practice when I'm in the temple and I don't practice when I'm at work or at home. No, it should touch every aspect of our lives. This is a very important aspect. So when we take refuge, one fundamental point of taking refuge is that from our side, it's important to have trust. If I go to a doctor, I need to trust that doctor, don't I? Because very often, you know, the treatment is not pleasurable, and if I don't have trust in the doctor, I'm not going to follow treatment if I don't have trust. And so personally, if I go to a doctor, I need to see a couple characteristics of the doctor. For example, I have something. It's just something about me. If I go to a doctor, one of the first characteristics that I look for in a doctor, I need to feel that from that person's side that there's this sincere desire for me to be better. In other words, I need to feel the minimum amount of love and compassion for me. It's happened to me, I want to go to a doctor, or I, you know, I've been in that situation where I didn't feel that from a doctor, and I didn't even think about taking the treatment that the doctor prescribed. Because when we talk about trust, is a starting point of trust. I trust that you want me to be well, and I can entrust myself into you. Once you have more knowledge than I do, and my well-being and my happiness are priorities to you. This is a fundamental point of trust. In any area. Let's say we have money to invest and we don't know what to do with them. Who can I trust? Someone that knows more than me, and puts my well-being, makes my well-being a priority. It's not enough just to have the knowledge. He needs to, first of all, love me, give my well-being and my happiness, make my happiness important. If I go to a doctor, my health needs to be important to him or her. Or if any professional I go to, if I go to a lawyer, for example, no matter how well that the lawyer knows the law, if the lawyer doesn't care about my well-being, my needs, then I don't trust him or her. So my starting point for trust, I trust you because you wish me well. My happiness, my well-being is important, is a priority for you. And in the spiritual on the spiritual path is extremely important. So when we look for someone who helps us along the spiritual path, because alone is very, very difficult. I mean, we need to take the steps ourselves for sure, but we need help. Someone who shows us what we're not able to see by ourselves. Even just to learn how to read and write, someone needs to help us. For any kind of job, any kind of career, someone needs to help us. You can imagine, for the spiritual path, of course we need someone who has this experience to give us the support. And a fundamental point is this trust. So when we find someone who's going to guide us spiritually along the Mahayana path, there are 10 main qualities that we should look for. And someone who has good morality, who's able to keep his own commitments, cultivate what is positive and abandon what is harmful. Someone who has concentration and control over his or her own mind, has wisdom, the correct view of reality, who has a good knowledge of Buddha's teachings and is able also to teach them in a way that I can understand them. Someone who has good knowledge and possibly direct experience of correct view of reality, and can explain it to me in a way that I can understand, and at least should be someone who has more qualities than I have. Someone who puts into practice what he or she teaches, so that there's correspondence between what is taught and the way the person lives. And last but not least, someone who has love and compassion for me. These are the characteristics that we should be looking for. in the past, it was said that before taking refuge with someone as a spiritual guide, we needed to experience the presence of that person. We need to be close to that person for at least 12 years. Because when I entrust myself, it's for real. And one example of this is the story between Naropa and Tilopa. It's a beautiful story, very quite particular. Often it's told because I don't know if it's right to say folkloric. It's special. Naropa was someone who had already had a great amount of knowledge of Buddhist teachings and meditation. He was a master himself, but he realized that he hadn't actually deeply realized. He had a great conceptual knowledge about something, and so he, in his meditation, he deeply requested to be able to actually experience these teachings and not just understand them conceptually. And he had a kind of vision that told him he needed to go look for a master named Tilopa. So he just leaves everything, his position, the importance that he had in the monastery of Nalanda, which was the greatest monastery at the time in all of Asia. He left everything that he had. He had a very good and easy life, and he goes looking for this master in India. And after a long process, so someone say, "Oh yeah, I heard about someone named Tilopa, maybe in this region." And then one day, he was on a riverbank, and he saw a naked man, with ashes. Looked like a kind of sadhu, with dreadlocks. And this man was fishing. He would kill the fish. He would take out the guts of the fish, eat the guts, and throw away the meat of the fish. And he looked at this man, and he thought, "Oh, what a poor man! How ignorant he is! All this negative karma he's accumulating." And then, as he's thinking that, as soon as he finished that thought, this man turns around to him and says, "Unfortunately, I'm the man that he just thought it. He didn't say it out loud, but he said, "I'm the man you're looking for. I'm the man you're looking for." And he ran towards him and said, "Who are you? Who are you?" And he didn't say. I mean, they spent 12 years together. And Tilopa, what he was doing was in that time, what he was doing was transfers of consciousness, where he was helping these fish have a better rebirth. But anyway, Naropa developed so much trust. Then Tilopa was having him do just the craziest of things. If you look, there are two biographies. There's the classic one, and then there's an inner biography. So these great masters have three biographies, like Lama Tsongkhapa has. There's the external biography, like what happened, from the eyes of those who watched, and then the biography of what one experienced, and then the secret biography, that has to do with the deeper aspects, and it's never published before one's death. Anyway, in the case of Naropa, in the external biography, it shows the things that were happening and the things that happened, and then the inner biography, he explained, when this happened, this is what happened inside of me. And I give this example because Naropa had so much trust that even things that went totally against his own logic, he followed. Once they were together walking, and they see they see a king, you know. They, in India at the time, it was just full of these maharajas, and so this court is all coming towards them, and and then he said to him, for 12 years, he said this: if I had a disciple, he should, in this case, go and grab the breasts of the queen, Naropa, who wasn't a strange hippie guy. I mean, he was super academic. I mean, he came from that world. He said, okay. He went there. He went to the court. He managed to get to the queen. Man, you can imagine. He was beaten, and then he would come back to Tilopa, and Tilopa would see him on the ground, and he would say, it's like, there's no pain, there's no suffering, and then he would just be instantly better. But what's important is that along this process, every time something like this happened, there was something inside, something conceptual that he was able to realize more deeply through this experience, and he had so much trust. He is something so difficult to find this level of trust. I mean, to have that amount of trust, you need to have total certainty, and it's very well explained that we should never trust someone without having our own experience, without having our own certainty. Once we trust, we should never break this commitment. We should never go against. But at the basis of taking refuge, there's the trust of the spiritual path itself, and the trust that you'll be guided correctly along this path. And there's a reciprocal feeling of trust and love. It's fundamental. I try to put it into words, but it's very difficult. It goes way beyond words. When we take refuge in a deep way, a real way, it's similar to falling in love. There's a kind of falling in love that happens. We fall in love with the Dharma. We fall in love with our Guru. And it just goes beyond words. It's hard for me to put into words. It's this feeling that, for my good luck, I've had several times to be near my masters and feel the great joy like a small child, and to feel protected, to feel sure. When I met Lama Ganchen, I was very, very small. I didn't think about it twice. I had so much trust in him, and I remember this very clearly. I was 5 years old, and the first time I saw him, I trusted him more than both my parents, and I've always had a wonderful relationship towards my parents, and trust and respect. It's not that I was the son of two people that were out of their minds and thought, oh, finally someone to take care of me. No, not at all. But anyway, this is something, it's a fundamental point when we talk about refuge. So the taking of refuge exists on the part of he who concedes refuge, who represents the Buddha and Dharma, and he, like the doctor, to give a right treatment to a patient, he needs to trust the patient too. So the one who leads this spiritual path needs to have love and trust as well. Have trust towards he who's taking refuge, and a deep feeling of love, and a commitment to guide to the best of one's own best abilities. And the one who takes refuge, deep trust and commitment to follow. It's a beautiful relationship because it's not based on judgment. I've seen people getting close to Rinpoche, who've done absolutely crazy things in their lives, and I never saw Rinpoche judge them. Oh, I'm going to help this person more, or not you because you've done this. Instead, I saw Rinpoche help even more those who were worse off. You know, you know. It's not Lama Ganchen less in the last years, but in the first years in the West, when someone would come close to Rinpoche, who was quite okay, he would kind of ignore him. But if there was someone who was really, really in a bad situation, he would take care of them like a precious jewel, So it wasn't always a great sign if Rinpoche was taking such good care of you, or if you were so close to Rinpoche. But here we are. We're here to help each other. So when we take refuge first in Dharma. But the guru literally means heavy. Literally. We don't take refuge blindly, but we trust. One follows the heart and also knowledge. We entrust ourselves in the spiritual path. So I want to follow this path. I entrust myself into you. Guide me. So I entrust myself to the Dharma, these teachings that Buddha gave and that have arrived to us through a very long, uninterrupted lineage, and we try to the best of our abilities to follow these teachings from my side. What I learned with Lama Ganchen is that, and I try to do my best, try to be of service. It's not about feeling superior or feeling inferior. It's about being of service. So what the best that I can offer is what I've received of the Dharma, and in very strange reasons of life, and here it's up to me to be in this position, and I'm sitting here on this throne. It's a throne because of the importance of Dharma, not the person, but the importance of Dharma itself. We're not here for formalities. If we want to learn all about the formalities, there's a beautiful text called the 50 Verses of Guru Devotion. And there, all the precise rules of what you should do, what you shouldn't do. I read this. I said, okay, so I can't come. Someone read this and said, so I can't come. I can't be in your presence with my hair tied up in a top knot, because in India, before, when both men and women, when they had long hair, when they would put like a top knot on their head, it was a sign of superiority. So ministers, people of a certain importance. So if I went somewhere with my hair in a bun, that it was as if I was saying that I'm more important than the others. So instead, when someone would let their hair down, it was a sign of humility, And when one goes to his own master, they shouldn't go with a sign of superiority. But I mean, in our context, this is different. But anyway, just to remember what's important to us, which, so in our, because even with our body, with our speech, we are cultivating feelings and ideas, So we should have we should follow a minimum amount of formalities just to remind us, you know. Um, you know. So for me, for example, Lama Ganshin, if Lama Ganshin would walk into a room where I was, to not stand up was painful for me. Sometimes he would say, "No, no, stay seated." You know, there, there's some things. I mean, why do we do them? Because they help us give importance to not to the person, but to Dharma itself. And this is why we're here. We're here together to share a path, and I try to share it to the best of my ability with you, putting myself at your service. And from your side, you have the commitment to put your lives at the service of Dharma for your own benefit and for the benefit of others. So there's a strong commitment, deep, sacred, where the priority becomes our spiritual path before anything else. And this is not something that you take lightly, because it should be done with seriousness. And it doesn't have anything to do with the formalities in life. It has to do with this inner direction that we are choosing and giving. The taking of refuge happens in our hearts. It doesn't require a ceremony. It doesn't need any of this, but it comes, to help us to keep it. Because when something is precious and important, it should be taken care of and protected. And when we take the commitment, this commitment should be protected. That's why we formalize it. So one receives a name to represent a new identity, to represent to being part of a spiritual family. We formalize this taking of refuge, to take this commitment with ourselves and to remember this commitment, and not just leave it, and not just take it for granted without taking it for granted. There are some commitments that can be given with the taking of refuge, even quite practical ones. For example, one should make offerings to Buddha Dharma and Sangha every day with incense or with the water bowls. But the most important commitment is taking refuge in Dharma. It's the commitment to remind ourselves what we want, what path we want to follow. This commitment to have this sincerity of wanting to shape our being with positively and with morality. When we take refuge, we come into a new spiritual family, and this goes beyond words, and it's difficult for me to put them into words. It's something I've felt in many, many circumstances. When we're close to people who have taken refuge in the same spiritual family, following the same lineage, there's a closeness, there's a connection, like maybe the kind of closeness you have with a brother, sister, or a cousin. And this is something really beautiful, but it's something you need to experience for yourself. You can't put it into words. It's on a practical level. Sometimes people ask me, how many masters can I take refuge with? As many as you want. There's no rule. Lama Tsongkhapa, one of the most important masters in the story in the history of Buddhism, had met over 100 masters, and actually many of his masters actually became his own disciples. And one of the most beautiful scenes that I've ever witnessed, once I was in India, I went to see a master of mine, and there was another master. Actually, he was actually in the movie the Little Buddha. And in the monastery, you weren't allowed to you weren't allowed to watch TV, but there was one in a school that was used sometimes, and he got a cassette of the film, and I was invited together to watch this movie. It was weird because it was, we were going, we, we were going with the highest, the most important. We were going with the most important masters of the monastery to go and do something that was kind of prohibited. And then the TV was horrible. But the most beautiful part is that when I went there was a time His Holiness the Dalai Lama was there, and one of my masters, who was and he was a master also of Lama Ganshin, mine, and he was the abbot of Tashi Lumpo, and he was just the epitome of stability and wisdom. He had so many qualities. And there was also another master who lived, I think, in France, and he was in the little guest house. He was at the guest house of the monastery, and so we went there before going to the movie. And as we were waiting, so his bedroom door opens, and I see it's a very small room. It's a single bed, and they put one cushion on top. They put one cushion on the bed. So one was sitting in the higher part, one was in the lower part, and they were exchanging teachings. So when one gave in teaching to the other, he would sit on the cushion, and the other would make prostrations and make a mandala offering. And then when he finished, then they would exchange, maybe the same day or another day, when there was a transmission or some other teaching, they would just change places. And so had this way of giving teachings and transmissions to each other. It was one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen. It was very special. That shows also the importance of taking refuge in the Dharma, not the person, but we're taking refuge in the path. In any case, it's said that at the beginning of our path, the fewer teachers you have, the better, because our tendency is to take refuge in the person and not in the Dharma, and every master will probably have a different approach. And so sometimes we can live maybe contradictions or have some kind of conflict when we're not ready yet, or we're taking refuge in the person more than the Dharma. The more we take refuge in the path and the Dharma, at that point we can have more and more masters. I have at least 25 masters, and some have taught me certain aspects of philosophy or specific techniques of meditation, or have followed me and supported me in every aspect of my life, like Lama Michel Rinpoche. And we need to see all of them as manifestations of the same, as being of the same nature, taking us all to enlightenment. In Borobudur, this marvelous temple in Indonesia, and let's remember that one commitment that Lama Ganshin gave, only one, and that is to go at least one time in your life to Borobudur, and I hope we can go back soon. So the first in Borobudur, the first level talks about samsara, and then the other two talk about the life of Buddha, and then the remaining levels talk about a practitioner, and he's able to reach enlightenment following the advice of 50 masters, 25 men, 25 women. And there was a formal master, very formal, or also the teacher in the form of a prostitute. And each one showed him a different part of the path, and he in the end was able to reach enlightenment. So our masters can be of any kind, of all kinds. This morning, you know, when I went to this morning, I talked about being on the beach, and I was talking about the waves. Another time, I met someone who touched me deeply, deeply. And if we used, he was really like a manifestation of Guru, a manifestation of Buddha. I was I went to this faraway beach, I drove there and I had to walk quite far. I really went to this place where there was no one there, and there was a man who was selling coconuts, and there was nobody there. Oh, this is strange. Then I get close. Oh, who knows how much this is going to cost? Because even the ones on the busy on the busy beach, they were expensive. I don't mean to be cheap, but when they ask for 25 euros for a coconut, it's too much. So I get close to this man. He was about 50 years old, maybe a little bit older. He had dark. And I asked him how much it cost. And it was a very, very fair, normal price. So I thought, oh, how strange. I assumed that in the middle of nowhere, that to sell one coconut, I thought. But aside from that, I got there, and when I was in front of this man, I just felt deeply touched, moved in his presence. He had an attitude of humility and dignity. He was the union of humility and dignity, humbleness and dignity, and he showed this humbleness with dignity. I don't know how else to explain it. It was extremely beautiful, and I was deeply touched. I remember I was there, and I was almost without. I had lost my. I was without words, and I asked him what his name was, and his name was Michel, which is not a common name. Then I thanked him, and I feel moved when I think about him. That person, his presence in that moment was able to teach me something that's an enormous, enormous value. It's priceless. So when we talk about the Guru, he can manifest in so many different ways. And we need to have the same gratitude for everyone who teaches us. So we can have many manifestations of the Guru. The Guru is the guide to enlightenment that manifests in, as one person, as many people, but is the guide to our enlightenment. I hope I'm clear in explaining this. So when someone asks me if I can take refuge with more than one teacher, yes. Unfortunately, I've seen also people take refuge with a master and then at a certain point have difficulties. If at a certain point we see that the presence of that person doesn't teach us, or we're not able to receive anymore, we can, if we don't know how to do differently, we can take a little bit of distance, but we can excuse the metaphor. But we should never spit in the plate that feeds us. We should never criticize. We should always show great respect and gratitude for us, for our own person. This is something very important, because the fundamental point is I can concede refuge because I have my own, that it is intact and pure. I have a relationship with my masters, in particular with Lama Michel Rinpoche and also the others. If I can be proud of, if I have something to be proud of, is that I've never broken any commitment with my teachers, and my masters have done the same, and this creates a line of transmission. It's the blessings that come to us. Once in Tibet, we were at the monastery of Demagonsa Rinpoche, and And there he was a young monk, and he was very eloquent. And he explained that the lineage, he became very well known for being so eloquent. And he said, he said, and he explained that, for example, if you have an energy and an electrical plant, and and then all of the electrical poles that bring the electricity to our house, if one of those poles fall down, then we don't get electricity. So, so one of those poles could be our trust, for example. So keeping our commitments pure is also about keeping this trust. So something that I can offer to you is an uninterrupted lineage where I always kept a pure relationship with my teachers, and they did the same all the way up to Buddha Shakyamuni. And this is the most precious thing that I can share with you. And I can hope that, I hope that you are able to preserve and protect it. I saw Lama Michel Rinpoche live very difficult situations, where he was asked to do things for various reasons. And following those requests would have meant breaking the commitment he had with his teachers. He never, not even for an instant, thought about following those requests, independently of the difficulties that saying no brought. And now is not the time to go into any detail about that. It's just not necessary. Maybe one day, if someone is interested, then we can if somebody's interested, one day we can spend a day to talk about the shadows of Tibetan Buddhism that were and they still are, But so human beings. I remember once I was talking to my grandparents. I was explaining. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry about this," and then they said, "You think in the Jewish tradition we don't have shadows like this, I have nothing to hide. It's just I don't find it at all beneficial." But one thing that Rinpoche Lama Ganchen showed me was this pure relationship he had with his teachers, and that his masters had with their own masters. This pure line of transmission, this uninterrupted lineage of transmissions and blessings is fundamental to our spiritual path. Like once I was in Tibet, and some monks from this very small monastery near Lhasa, Nyimo Gyatso, and they were close to Lama Ganchen, and they asked me to come to give teachings at the monastery, and also the transmission of the three principal aspects of the path. And I said, "Listen, I'm sorry, but I know the abbot of the monastery. He has much more knowledge than I do. He has a marvelous experience of Dharma. You don't need me. Let's tell the truth here." And they sincerely said to me, "But what we don't need you, we need your lineage. What we want you to create this relationship of lineage. You come from a pure lineage, and we want to connect with this lineage." This is extremely important. This is the most precious thing that I have, that I can offer, I can give to you, and it depends on each one of you how to take care of it, how to cultivate it. taking refuge from one point of view is the formality of becoming like becoming Buddhist. Sometimes people ask me, what does it mean be Buddhist? Once I was with my master, Geshe Thupten Rinpoche, who was my main philosophy teacher, and we were receiving teachings on the Guru Yoga in 6 sessions, and there are about 60 students, 15 lamas. We were at the Serame monastery. It was quite a formal setting, very dedicated people. And then he asked, who here is Buddhist? And I mean, it was normal for him to ask questions, to debate with us, and normally it was very fast we would answer. And in that circumstance, nobody said a word because it seemed so obvious. And he said, I don't know I don't know if I'm really Buddhist. And everybody was super quiet, because being Buddhist means taking refuge in Buddha Dharma and Sangha. So formally I do it, but how much I'm able every day to take refuge in the Dharma and give direction to my mind in this way, I'm not sure. So we are aspiring Buddhists. We are aspiring to the path that Buddha showed, and we do our best, to follow it in every circumstance. But it's not about getting a Buddhist membership card. That has nothing to do with that. It's not important. We're not here to become Buddhists. We're here to grow, to develop, to practice what Buddha transmitted, to face our mental defilements and to grow, to improve our qualities and relate better with it and help each other. Now, if you've already taken refuge in the past and you want to renew, you can. If you want to take refuge for the first time, you can. If you want to be present if wants to be present in this formalizing of the taking of refuge, you can without formalizing it for yourself. When someone says, I'm sorry, Lama, I'm not sure yet. I'm happy because that means that there's sincerity with oneself. Shouldn't do something out of formality. It's something very personal, and we shouldn't think, oh, well, what are people going to think of me and how, absolutely not. This shouldn't be present at all. There are people who get close to the Dharma, and before, I've seen people wait even more than 12 years before taking refuge. I have deep respect for them. I've seen people who fall in love right away, and they fall in love with the Dharma and take refuge right away, and I have respect for them too. Each, there's no obligation and there's no hurry, but it should be done with seriousness. It should be done with seriousness. Sincerity too. This is important. Now, let's go to the part of the formalization of the taking of refuge. So, it's based on a request. The request is important. It's important for us to make this request. And people say, well, if I don't ask Buddha, it means that he's not going to give me a refuge. No, but to receive, we need to ask. In Brazil, there's a way of saying, like, the baby that doesn't cry doesn't get milk. So when we ask, it means we're ready to receive it. Often we receive something without having asked for it. We don't really receive it. So we should have this attitude of asking. And so, because humbleness is important characteristic. Mhm. So, an antidote to this sense of superiority is the making of is the doing prostrations, and normally we put our right knee on the floor and our left knee up in this position for thousands of years. They use this position in India to ask for something. Also in the West, when you get down on your knees, it's to ask for something. So this is the position that has been used for centuries. And then I will give you, there's some formulas to repeat that have existed since the time of Buddha, where you say, I take refuge in Buddha Dharma and Sangha. And then there's a visualization to follow, and as we do it, I'll explain it to you. So now, who wants to take refuge for the first time or take it again? You can stand up, make 3 prostrations, and then put yourself in that position as I explained before, with the left knee up and the right knee on the floor. And if you're not comfortable in that position, you can sit on a chair, no problem.
Quindi vi mettete seduti.
Now sit down with the right knee on the floor, the left up. You can actually sit on the right leg. That makes it more comfortable. And the hands in the prayer mudra. Visualize that above me, there's my guru, Drüan Kanchen Rinpoche, inseparable from all the masters in the lineage. Above him are his masters, like Kyabchen Dorje Chichen Rinpoche, and above him, the long line of masters to Lama Tsongkhapa and then to Buddha Shakyamuni. And imagine from the heart of Buddha Shakyamuni, there's like a flow of light and nectar that goes from heart to heart, from master to master, transmitting love and trust and knowledge and experience of Dharma that come from Lama Ganchen Rinpoche's heart to my heart. And as you take refuge, it comes to your heart, creating this indestructible relationship. So with the deep desire to wanting to get out of samsara and this cycle of suffering, and with this strong desire of wanting to help every being get out of this samsaric suffering, we take refuge in Buddha Dharma and Sangha. We ask that they help us, to guide us, the Guru as a representative of Buddha Dharma Sangha, to guide us along the path towards the liberation of samsara, towards enlightenment, for the benefit of all sentient beings. With this intention, repeat after me.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. Dutiyam Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dutiyam Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami. Dutiyam Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. Tirtyam Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Tirtyam Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami. Tirtyam Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. Namo Gurubhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. 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 Namo Triratnaya. Sangye Chodang, Tsogi Chonamla, Chanchu Pardu, Dani Kyapsuchi, Dagi Jinsu, Gibe Sonamgi, Drola Penchir, Sangye Drubrasho, Sangye Choda, Tsogi Chonamla, Chanchu Pardu, Dani Kyapsuchi, Dagi Jinsu, Gibe Sonamgi, Drola Penchir, Sangye Drubrasho. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma, nel Sangha.
In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha,
Prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione.
I take refuge until enlightenment with the practice of generosity and the other generosity, morality, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. May I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Mahamuni, Shakyamuni, Swaha. Om Muni Muni, Mahamuni, Shakyamuni, Swaha. Om Muni Muni, Mahamuni, Shakyamuni, Swaha. Adesso
Now, I'm going to ask you Tapino, which says this is the path, and you answer Lexo, which means excellent. And in that moment, the taking of refuge is conceded. So I say Tapino and you say Lexo.
Tabino. Potete sedere.
So now you can sit normally, and let's recite together the refuge prayer. As we recite, visualize that each lineage master absorbs one into the other until it gets to Lama Michel Rinpoche, who then absorbs into me and then sits joyously at my heart. And then from my 5 chakras, lights emanate in color white, red, blue, yellow, and green that then absorb into your respective chakras, revitalizing your qualities, granting you refuge, conceding you all the blessings of body, speech, and mind, qualities, and actions.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, Dutiyam Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dutiyam Dharmam Sharanam gacchami. Dutiyam Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. Tirtiyam Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Tirtiyam Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami. Tirtiyam Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. Namo Guru Abhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Guru Abhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Guru Abhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Triratnaya. Sangye Chedan Tsoki Chonamla Chanchu Parto Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Drupar Shuya Sangye Chedang Tsoki Chonamla Chancho Parato Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparasho.
In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Munye Swaha.
From my heart, an emanation of Guru Buddha arises that comes to the crown of each one of you and enters through your central channel and goes down through your central channel and sits joyously on the lotus flower at your heart. Your mind becomes inseparable from Guru Buddha's mind. In the same way, your body, speech, and mind become inseparable from him. And we're able to go beyond our ordinary vision of ourselves. It's like we allow ourselves to be taken to a state of great love and joy. We experience the state of Guru Buddha, a deep state of love and wisdom. Our mind becomes inseparable from that of Guru Buddha.
Lama Rinpoche Dagi Chiwara Pede Ten Shuola Kadrin Chembu Gone Jesunte Kusun Tugi Ngudru Tsadu Sula Palden Tsawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Jimbara Pede Ten Shula Kadrin Chembo Gone Jesonte Chodan Tumo Ngudru Tsadu So Palden Tsawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Ninkara Pede Ten Shula Kadrin Chembo Gone Jesonte Chanchubu Nimpe Pardo Tempara Shu Pakyuke Kodan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tugdan Dagi Ye Ten Yerme Chikto Chingi Lo Makyuke Kodan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Makyuke Tugdan Dagi Ye Ten Yerme Chikto Chingi Lo.
Guru Buddha stays at our heart, accompanying us at every moment of our lives, every choice, every thought, every word.
Lame kutse rapten chi namkara tinle chochur gepada losan tembe dreme sasumgi drove munsela tato ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lamada dralme cheki pela longche ching sadan lamgi yente rabzone dorje change kopa nyurtobe shum.
In this way, we conclude the taking of refuge. This is something that each one of us needs to have his own experience. It's not something that we can easily put into words. Something that brings me so much joy, makes me happy, is to see that I received from my masters, including Lama Michel Rinpoche and others, this precious gift of Dharma, this lineage, and see that it's something that we continue, that it's been beneficial to me, and I see it's beneficial to others. But it's not important only that the knowledge continues, but this relationship of trust and love, that this continues. This is one of the most important things that exists. So this is it for today. I thank you deeply for being here, for being together on this path. The other day I was talking with Shero Rinpoche, and we were talking about how much one learns by teaching, because personally I can assure you that I've learned more by teaching than by studying. I mean, the times I've had to teach tests like the Bodhisattva Charavatara and many others, I've had much more clarity as I explained them than when I was studying them. Of course, I received the teachings, I studied them, but having to guide, having to actually teach, I learned so much. And every once in a while, I make a kind of a joke, and it's a joke to a certain point, but like every joke, there's a little bit of truth to it, and I say, I don't know, maybe you're all emanations of Buddha that are just here allowing me to grow and learn, So just to say that I'm incredibly grateful to you, all of you helping me, and everyone following in your own ways, in your own times. But we're here with open hearts. We're here sincerely, with sincerity, and this is the most important thing. We're in its context. No one's forced to be here. It's not on not in a material way, like in the in the monastery, for example. I mean, there's some contexts where, if you don't act in a certain way, or if you don't do something, then you won't eat, or maybe somebody is forced for moral reasons. It's part of one's culture to be Buddhist, so one does something because it's part of one's culture, and to do differently would be a kind of showing a lack of respect towards one's own parents or one's own society. I mean, and we're out of all of that, in the sense that we're not here for cultural reasons or a material reason. We're not here, we're here because we want to follow our own path. We find benefit in this path, and we share it sincerely together. This is something very special. It gives us special worth. So we should really rejoice and not take it for granted. Following this path with sincerity is more important than anything else. Thank you, and we will do our dedications. If you're here and you've taken refuge for the first time, you can come and receive a name. The name is in Tibetan. There are two ways. So in one way, all the names are given kind of haphazardly, or you know, or the first name is from the name of who gives it. So Rinpoche told me many years ago that when I first gave it, I mean, you know, I Rinpoche told me to give the first name as Champa, which means love. Then the name the name represents the qualities that we need to develop. I mean, all the names are beautiful, but I see sometimes people they really fixate on something. So any name would be good, all names are good for everyone. But in this moment, the name is given just on a kind of intuition, but we shouldn't fixate on that. What's important is that the new name is a rebirth within the spiritual family, and we should work to generate this quality. So time for our final dedications.
Janchuya Simcho Rinpoche Make Panama Ke Gyurchi Kepa Nyampra Mepa Yang Kongne Konto Pelwareshu. Possa la preziosa mente della bodhicitta.
May the precious mind of bodhicitta that has not yet arisen arise and grow forevermore.
Nime kuyandelekshin Nien takto delekpe Concho sumanki chingi lob Concho sumanki ngondrubotsol Concho sumanki trashishum.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to receive all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Una sola cosa.
Just one more thing. This last verse that we recited at dawn or at dusk, not too long ago, I spoke to Lama Ganchen to say that I wasn't really happy with the translation. I thought, oh no, the translation needs to stay like this. He said, oh no, change it. So in Tibetan, when we say Koncho Sungi Chingi Log, Koncho Sungi, this ki it can be written in two different ways. Koncho Sungi, it can be with one extra letter or without this sa. So it sounds the same, but the difference with this particle, grammatical particle, is when there's a sa, it represents action. So it's the verb. So it's the agent that comes before that does something. So Koncho Sungi in Buddha Dharma and Sangha, what does it do? It blesses. So the blessings of Buddha Dharma and Sangha. Ki no drupso, that to concede realizations. Ki means with the sa means it comes from the agent Buddha Dharma and Sangha that give us the realizations, and then also with the auspiciousness, with the sa, also comes from Buddha Dharma and Sangha without the sa, and I've seen it written with and without in various texts and in different contexts, and also with auspiciousness is without the sa. So it means may I have the. It's not Buddha and Dharma and Sangha that sprinkle our life with signs of auspiciousness or concede realizations. It seems like something very passive, and we're just receiving. And I still need to make the translation so it comes out correctly. But Nimo Delek Sendelek. Nimo is a day, and Delek is happiness and well-being. Dewa is happiness. Lek, everything good. Excellence is happiness and excellence. So to Nimondelek, during the day, everything good and excellent. Nimondelek Degishin. And so even midday and at and midnight, the best for everyone. So day from dawn to dusk. Koncho Sunki Chingi Lob. May we have the blessings of Buddha Dharma and Sangha. We can receive the blessings of Buddha Dharma and Sangha. Can we obtain the realizations of Buddha Dharma and Sangha? It's not Buddha Dharma and Sangha that concede the realizations. May I reach the realizations. May I realize the Buddha, realize Dharma and Sangha, and may I have the auspiciousness of Buddha Dharma and Sangha, which means may I have Buddha in my life, may I have Dharma, and may I have Sangha in my life to show me the path, and this is the what is auspicious. So I wanted to explain this because it seems like it's like we talk all in one direction, and then this last verse, it just seems that it's not consistent with what we said before. So we ask for the blessings, but then it's up to us to take refuge and have this good auspiciousness of actually following the path. It's difficult to change the translation because for years and years we've done it in this way, and it's just not obvious to translate it. But somehow we'll find a way to do it. We'll find a way to do it. As Lama Ganshin in his wisdom did, every once in a while he would say, he would say, let's do both. Let's keep both of them, and then naturally one will take form. But it's important for us to understand the meaning of this. Thank you, everyone. And now, who wants to come for the new name? If you've taken refuge for the first time.